Whenever you guys are ready.
Whenever you are.
You ready? Call the meeting to order. Everyone, please find a seat. Will you call the roll, please?
Chairman Rick Johnson,
Here.
David LaMontagne, not present. Nicole Cover,
Here.
Donald Bailey,
Here.
Vivian Picard.
Here.
Chairman Johnson, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is public comment reminder. There will be opportunity for the public to address the board for roughly 2 minutes towards the end of the meeting. And I'd appreciate if there's no comment made as far as pertaining to a possible application or anything like that. So keep that in mind if you're choosing to speak later. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Their support?
Support.
Moved and supported to approve the agenda. Call the roll.
Chairman Rick Johnson,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. We have minutes of the November 8th, 2018 to approve.
Motion to approve. Support.
Been moved and supported to approve the minutes from the November 8th meeting. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go ahead and call the roll.
Chairman Rick Johnson,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Old business, none. Time to go home. Number 7, new business. We have under A and B, a couple of resolutions that I think you've all received via email or something to look at. The first one being access to patients, number A. And as I find the right one. Okay, this resolution, whereas the board is established within the Department of Licensing Regulatory Affairs Department under the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act of 2016, PA 281, with the general responsibility to implement the act, and the board's duties include providing for the levy and collection of fines for a violation of the act or rules and providing oversight of the marijuana facilities through the board's inspectors, agents, and auditors for the purpose of conducting investigations into the operation of marijuana facilities as the board considers necessary and proper to ensure compliance with the act and rules and to protect overall safety, security, integrity of the operation of the marijuana facilities. And the board's powers include the authority to investigate alleged violations of the act or rules, take appropriate disciplinary action against the licensee, take a disciplinary action as the board considers appropriate to prevent practices that violate the act or rules, and take any reasonable or appropriate action to enforce the act or rules. And pursuant to enacting Section 2 of the act, the legislature found that the necessity for access to safe sources of marijuana for medical use and the immediate need for growers, processors, secure transporters, provisioning centers, and safety compliance facilities to operate under clear requirements established the need to promulgate emergency rules to preserve the public health, safety, or welfare. Therefore, it is resolved that the public interest and registered qualifying patient access is best served through the provisioning of medical marijuana products through licensed facilities. In order to supplement the current supply of medical marijuana availability to patients, the board will not take disciplinary action against the licensee for purchasing marijuana products from a registered primary caregiver in the following circumstances. For a licensed provisioning center, for the time period ending December 31, 2018, the licensee obtains patient consent on a form provided by the department prior to selling any marijuana products that have not been tested in full compliance with the law and the administrative rules. and the licensee enters all inventory into the statewide monitoring system immediately upon receipt from a caregiver, and the licensee enters all sales in the statewide monitoring system. For the time period of January 1st, 2019 to January 31st, 2019, the licensee obtains marijuana products only from licensed marijuana facilities, and the licensee enters all inventory into the statewide monitoring system immediately upon receipt, and the licensee sells marijuana products that were received from a caregiver, tested in full compliance with the law and administrative rules, and recorded in the licensee's statewide monitoring system inventory prior to January 1 of 2019, that has been tested in full compliance with the law and administrative rules. For a licensed grower or processor, for the time period ending February 28, 2019, the licensee obtains marijuana products from caregivers, and the licensee only transfers marijuana products that have been tested in full compliance with the law and administrative rules. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to adopt the resolution just read. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, regarding this resolution, the biggest problem is this goes against what's allowed under the 2008 law. There are people that have been convicted all across the state, have been incarcerated, and I believe there are some that are still incarcerated for doing exactly what we're proposing to authorize here. I think that's problematic, and it goes back to all of these temporary operations that were in violation of the 2008 law from back a year and a half ago when we first started talking about this.
Any other discussion? I will say it doesn't fix everything I'd like to see fixed, but it goes in the direction of trying to provide product for patients that dearly need it, is my consideration and concern as of today.
And I agree, Madam Chairperson, and obviously, I agree with Don as well, but we're working to try to come up with a resolution to help the people who really need the medicine, so.
And to get towards a licensed regulated system that's fully tested and tracked. Any other discussion?
No, and all I would add is that you can't always go back in history, things become different as you see things. Even in the pharmacy world, there's drug shortages. We have to go against rules and regulations, and we have to make exceptions. So I think that's the situation that we're in.
Okay. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no, motion passes.
thank you. Okay, number B. This is a resolution on applicant review and evaluation. At a regular scheduled meeting of the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board convened in Lansing, Michigan, the following resolution was adopted. Whereas the board is established within the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs under the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act of PA 2016-281 with the general responsibilities to implement the act. And the board's duties include granting or denying each application for a state operating license within a reasonable time frame. The board's powers include the authority to investigate applicants for state operating licenses, determine the eligibility for licenses, and grant licenses to applicants in accordance with the act and rules. And pursuant to section 402(2) of the act, an applicant is ineligible to receive a license if any of the circumstances listed in the subdivisions A through I exist. And pursuant to section 402(3) of the act, in determining whether to grant a license to an applicant, the board may consider all the information listed in the subdivisions A through I And pursuant to section 3031K of the act, the board may delegate the execution of its powers that are not specifically exclusively reserved to the board under the act for the purpose of administrating and enforcing the act and rules. Therefore, it is resolved that to more efficiently and consistently review and evaluate applicant eligibility for licensure, the board delegates the review and evaluation of the applicant's eligibility under sections 402(2) and 3 of the Act to the Bureau of Marijuana Regulation. The BMR is to provide a recommendation for each application presented to board as the applicant's eligibility related to the specific criteria under sections 402(2) and 3 of the Act. The recommendation is not binding on the board. The board shall make a determination of the applicant's eligibility for a state operating license. And I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support.
Discussion.
Director Brisboe, regarding this resolution, will this be handled pretty much exactly the same way that we did the last resolution on the financials?
Yes,
Okay, so the information will still be the same, except you're now telling us something about it.
correct.
Very good, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Support.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes,
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to C, pre-qualification applications. Number 1, the applicant is Weed Snob Growers, Inc. And let's see, I'm gonna put that over here. Any suggestion from board members?
Mr. Chair, I move to grant wheat knob growers pre-qualification status.
Second.
Been moved and supported to grant Reed Snob Growers, Inc. a Class C grow pre-qualification. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
yes,
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 2 is applicant is Weed Snob Processing, Inc. Their wishes of the,
I move to grant wheat snob processing pre-qualification status for pending license.
Second.
it's been moved and supported to grant, I don't know if we're saying it Weed Snob or Weeds Knob, which way, but Weeds Snob Processing, Inc. pre-qualification for a processing facility. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
yes,
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay. Number 3, Heavenly Harvest Cultivators, Inc. for a pre-qualification. Wishes of the board. I'll move. Oh,
Go on. Go on.
Sorry. I'll move that we grant pre-qualification to Heavenly Harvest Cultivators, Inc.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualification status to Heavenly Harvest Cultivators. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
yes,
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Thank you. Number 4, the applicant is Better Than Nature, pre-qualification for is this for a Class C processor and provisioning center? Correct, all three? Okay.
I
Wishes
should,
of-
I should say they're just up for pre-qualification today. That's what they've
Right,
indicated
that's
is
what
their
they're gonna-
intention for
Yep.
licensure, yes.
Gotcha. Comments, wishes?
Mr. Chair, I move to deny pre-qualification status for Better Than Nature.
There's support.
Support.
Been moved and supported to deny Better Than Nature LLC a pre-qualification status. Any discussion?
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
I think she's getting the.
4023A. 4023F.
Any more? Okay. Any more?
Mr. Chairman, in support of that, the applicant failed to provide records to support the business income.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this? If not, please call the roll. It is to deny pre-qualifications for Better Than Nature.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 5. Is Apex Ultra Worldwide for pre-qualification.
I make a motion to deny Apex Ultra Worldwide LLC for pre-qualification status based on section 4023A, section 4023F as in Frank, and also there's a pattern or history of failure to satisfy business and tax obligations when they were due.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to deny Apex Ultra Worldwide of a pre-qualification status. Any more discussion?
Yeah, personal and business probity to operate or maintain a marijuana facility under 3A. And 3F was, applicant has been served with a complaint or other notice filed with any public body regarding payment of any tax required under federal, state, or local law that has been delinquent for 1 or more years.
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion is to deny Apex Ultra Worldwide. Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is the applicant is 759 East Pinconning for pre-qualification. Any discussion? Hearing none, then I will move to grant 759 East Pinconning a pre-qualification app. Is there
Support.
Moved and supported to grant applicant 759 East Pinconning a pre-qualification. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is applicant for pre-qualification, AEIY Capital LLC. Wishes of the board.
Chairperson, I move to grant AEY pre-qualification status for applications.
Okay.
There is support. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll to grant AEI Capital a pre-qualification.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is number 8. The applicant is LE Battle Creek, Inc. for pre-qualification.
Mr. Chairperson, I move to grant LE Battle Creek pre-qualification status
Second.
for application.
It's been moved and supported to grant pre-qualification for LE Battle Creek, Inc. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Next is Buchanan Development for pre-qualification, number 9. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Buchanan Development has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Second.
Been moved and supported to grant pre-qualification to Buchanan Development LLC. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, the next 3 are all the same. Can we do them in one, or you need separate? AG?
You can do
Okay. What's the wishes for 10, 11, and 12?
Mr. Chairman, for EAN Management LLC, EAN Commercial LLC, and EAN Development LLC, I move they have pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Second.
Been moved and supported to approve applicants 10, 11, and 12, EAN Management LLC, EAN Commercial LLC, and EAN Development LLC for pre-qualification. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. We're on to number 13. The applicant is Carey Investments for pre-qualification. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chair, I move that Carey Investments has pre-qualification, pre-qualification status for Carey Investments for an application.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualification to Carey Investments LLC. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Number 14, the applicant is Ant Sparkies LLC for pre-qualification status.
Chair, I move that Aunt Sparky's has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
There's support.
Support.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualification to Ant Sparkies LLC. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Next is, the applicant is WHMWM Enterprises for pre-qualification.
Chair, I move that WHMWM has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualifications to WHMWM Enterprises. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Number 16, the applicant is American Wellness Center for a pre-qualification. I'll move for pre-qualification status of American Wellness Center.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant American Wellness Center LLC a pre-qualification status. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
thank you. Number 17, Lindsay's Med Supply Station.
I'll make a motion to deny pre-qualification status for a pending license with Lindsay's Med Supply Station LLC under section 4023A, personal and business probity to operate or maintain a marijuana facility. As evidence, there was a pattern or history of failure to timely file tax returns and satisfy tax obligations when due.
Support.
It's been moved, supported to deny Lindsay's Med Supply Station LLC for pre-qualification. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
okay, number 18 is, I think it's called, pronounced Leone Wellness LLC for a pre-qualification.
I move that Leona Wellness has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Your support. I'll support it. Is there discussion on Leona Wellness LLC for pre-qualification status? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
next is number 19, Weberville Ventures LLC for pre-qualification status.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the next 4 applications are
Yeah, they're all the same.
essentially the same
Can we do all them together?
for a pre,
It's all just for pre-qualification, right?
Yeah.
So there's 19, 20, 21, and 22. I'll move to grant 19, 20, 21, and 22 for pre-qualification status. Is there support? I'll support. Okay, motion fails for lack of support. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we discuss these applications before we put up another motion.
Okay, is there support for that?
Support.
It's been moved and supported to open up discussion on applicant 19, 20, 21, and 22. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carries. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, that'd be Weberville Ventures LLC, 1385 South Huron LLC, 1385 South Huron Processing LLC, and 1385 South Huron Retail LLC.
Yep.
Couple of concerns. One of them is regarding one of the applicants, CJ, has a couple very, very minor traffic violations that have not been addressed, and they're actually, one of them is 9 years old. I think one of them is 4 years old. There are warrants out, and when confronted with that issue, the response was that they might take steps in the future to take care of those issues. Now, these are very minor, pretty much meaningless, except the response to it. These laws, whether they're traffic laws, they're regulations in themselves, and we're entering this highly regulated market. And if that's going to be the response that we could expect regarding regulations, that's a problem for me. And regarding one of the applicants, JB, there was work as a caregiver that was clearly in violation of the 2008 MMLB for several years, where he would employ himself in others' caregiver operations that was never allowed under the 2008 law. Essentially, he was a contract worker to go in and work in these things, and that was never the intent of the 2008 law. There's been court cases that talked about situations like this. You know, he had access to all these caregiver operations that he had no access to, should not have had any access to. There was one other applicant, RS, that has some issues that are concerning, but we don't know what the outcome of those issues are at this point. But the fact that they're there are concerning to me.
And I agree with a number of the applicants in terms of the integrity, the moral character, and the reputation of some of the individuals that are a part of the application. So kind of, as Don mentioned, like disrespect for the law.
Anything else? Okay, I guess we're done discussing that. Wishes of the board on, do you want to do them in one or
I think we can do them all
all
together.
together? Okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to deny Weberville Ventures LLC, 1385 South Huron LLC, 1385 South Huron Processing LLC, 1385 South Huron Retail LLC, pre-qualification status under section 4023A, personal and business probity to operate or maintain a marijuana facility. And also the integrity aspect of some of the actions by the applicants.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to deny applicant Weberville Ventures, 1385 South Huron, for pre-qualification, and 13,
Could we get a little more clarification on the basis for the,
yeah, let me read these all out so they know what
fire
they're,
away?
okay,
Sorry.
1385 Huron Processing, and then 1385 Huron Retail. Did you want to either the motion maker or the supporter, we need a little more description as to what your wishes are for denial?
Regarding the personal and business probity, the traffic laws for which these traffic citations were issued are regulations clearly in themselves to the point that they're laws, whether they're civil infraction or misdemeanors. And they were not addressed, and they could have been done so very simply. And when confronted by Laura with these issues, the response was that they may take steps in the future to take care of the problems. You know, I don't think that's the type of person that we can rely on successfully to operate in this highly regulated market.
And also there was a history of, there was a pattern or a history, continuous pattern or history, not just one, but it was a pattern.
Mr. President?
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to deny 19, 20, 21, and 22. Earlier mentioned or stated the name of each one. Hearing no more discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 23, applicant PH Strategies LLC for a pre-qualification.
Chair, I move to grant pre-qualification status for PH Strategies LLC.
Is there support? I'll support, get it on the board. Any discussion on PH Strategies LLC for pre-qualification? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
24, Clean Herbal Solutions for pre-qualification. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Clean Herbal Solutions has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support? I'll support it. Discussion on Clean Herbal Solutions LLC for pre-qualification. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
No.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number 25, Advanced STS LLC for pre-qualification status. Anything from the board?
Mr. Chair, I move that Advanced STS has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Second.
Moved and supported to approve Advanced STS LLC for pre-qualification status. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
thank you. Next is Madison Farms, and that's for pre-qualification LLC. Any wishes of the board?
Chair, I move that Matson Farms has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Is there support?
Second.
Moved and supported for Madison Farms LLC for pre-qualification status. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I note in some of the questions from the applicant, for the past several years, he indicates that he has made a living from being a marijuana caregiver under the 2008 law, which is something that simply wasn't provided for under the 2008 law. For that reason, I would oppose this application.
Any other discussion? Okay, the motion is to approve pre-qualification status for Matson Farms LLC. No other discussion? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Next is number 27, Secure Can LLC for pre-qualification status. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Secure Can Inc. has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualification to Secure Can LLC. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Next is, I believe it's pronounced Minotaur Secure Transport for pre-qualification status.
Mr. Chair, I move to grant Minotaur Secure Transport pre-qualification status.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant Minotaur Secure Transport LLC a pre-qualification status. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is number 29, Home of Buchanan LLC for pre-qualification status. Wishes of the board.
I move to grant pre-qualification status for OM Buchanan.
There's support?
Second.
Moved and supported to grant pre-qualification status to OM Buchanan. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this is an application in large part very similar to one out of Ann Arbor, the Ohm, located in Ann Arbor. And my objection to this application is the same as I had for that one. This was a dispensary that was not allowed under the 2008 law that nonetheless was operating and made a lot of money over a lot of years. And that was in direct violation of what was allowed by the 2008 law. For that reason, I would be opposed to this application.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, the motion is to grant Home of Buchanan LLC a pre-qualification status. Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, number 30, the applicant is Greenway Transport, Inc. for pre-qualification. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Greenway Transport Incorporated has pre-qualification status for a pending application.
Support.
Moved and supported to grant Greenway Transport a pre-qualification status. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Thank you. Believe the next 3 are all the same as, aren't they? Is that correct?
They are the same supplemental applicants for 31 through 33. And you can handle those as a group if you have the same motion for each.
Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss this application before we put a motion up or down in front of the board.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Moved and supported to open up for discussion for applicant 31, 32, and 33. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, the same? We're open for discussion.
And this is regarding Fire Packaging LLC, Universal Growth LLC, Fireball Retail LLC. This is an application that came before us last spring and was denied. There have been some modifications to the application as far as one of the applicants that was on the application that maybe at that time was largely responsible for the denial of that application at that time. So now we have a new application with one of the same members. Some of the issues that I noted from last spring are issues that are still there. The applicant that we have in front of us today on these 3 applications represented that he was not involved in the business. But then there was significant, to the tune of $21,000 a month electric bills that were noted. And there was also over $400,000 worth of grow equipment that was purchased a year ago. And so it turns out that there was actually some business that was going on in regards to this. And for that reason, I can't support this application.
Anything else? For more comments? Okay, discussion is closed. And before us, the next 3 applications, is there something the board wishes to do? Either individually or all 3 at once?
All 3 at once is fine.
Is there a motion?
I'm looking for the section right now. Mr. Chairman, regarding, I would move to deny Fire Packaging LLC, Universal Growth LLC, Fireball Retail LLC under section 402(2)(c). The applicant knowingly submitted a license application containing false information.
Is there support? And I'll support it to get it up.
And if you could just be a little more specific about what the false information is, that would be helpful.
Regarding the false information, there was, he claimed that he was not involved in the business. However, that's not supported by expenditures that were made, and then in follow-up, he had an explanation as to how those occurred. But they're still all in violation of the MMLB of 2008.
Okay. Any more discussion? The motion is to deny applicant Fire Packaging LLC, Universal Growth LLC, and Fireball Retail LLC a pre-qualification status. Hearing no more discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
No.
Nicole Cover,
No,
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes, that's 2-2, right?
Chairman Johnson, you have 2 yeses, 2 noes, motion fails.
Okay, there's open wishes of the board. What you want to do?
They have to move it to the next when we have 5.
You can discuss further if you think that you may be able to vote again and come up with a different result, or you could table it until the next meeting if necessary.
can we look at, because I can't, that's what I was trying to search, but what were the grounds for, because this would be the second time that it's being denied, correct? We had these 3.
Yeah, yes.
I believe so, yes. Mhm.
If you're looking for the last determination on the application for which the supplemental applicant was involved, it's, if you look at any of those board reports, it's under section H, the last paragraph. I can read it to you if you like. But it was, the basis for denial was section 4022C and 4023A. The applicant knowingly submitted an application containing false information and in consideration of the integrity, moral character, and reputation of the applicant. That was the motion.
And did this application remove one of those supplemental people?
Yes.
I thought it did, right?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve pre-qualification status.
For these 3.
Yes.
There's support for that.
Yes.
It has been moved and supported to approve applicant Fire Packaging LLC, Universal Growth LLC, Fireball Retail LLC. Any other discussion?
No, I would just remind everybody before the vote that this is a pre-qualification status, not licensure. So if things come before the department, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, or things become misleading or were not correct, then that would be given to us prior to the licensure if something is found to be different. So I think that we don't police the pre-qualification, but if the person came off for the reason for denial last time, I think that's a factor that we need to consider in this vote.
Okay, any more discussion?
No, I absolutely agree with Nicole. In half of those issues that we had talked about last spring are now gone with the removal of that applicant. But
Correct.
the other issues that were talked about back then remain with the current applicant, would be my position.
Okay, any more discussion? Please call the roll. The vote is to approve.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no, motion passes.
Number 34, Weisenberger Ventures for pre-qualification status.
I move that Weisenberg Ventures has pre-qualification status for pending application.
Second.
Moved and supported to approve Weisenberger Ventures 2 for pre-qualification status. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
No.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no, motion passes.
Okay, now we go to item 7B, I think it's called. Back to number 1, the applicant is Pure Green LLC. And I believe this is for a license, correct?
Mhm.
And there are 2 of them. Wish to put them in one or do them separate? One, so then you'll be looking at Pure Pure Green LLC for a license for a Class C grow under both applicants.
And I would point out that these applicants were pre-qualified in April.
And just so the board's aware, the reason these are on in two different agenda items is they're at two different addresses. So this isn't a stacked Class C, it's two different physical locations. We have two different inspection reports related to that.
Okay,
I move to grant operating license to Pure Green LLC and Pure Green LLC.
is there
Second.
support? There is support. Moved and supported to grant a license to Pure Green LLC under 1 and 2 on our agenda for a Class C grow for both locations. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I noted in reviewing this application that there was significant issues identified in the investigation report regarding some of the personnel that were representing themselves as officers of this entity. It went back and forth, and while certainly the written word finally from the attorney representing the entity stated that it was clear that they weren't involved in the capacity that the person presented himself as. That really didn't hold up from what the enforcement section was able to garner in their investigation. I think there's a real issue on who is actually involved in this application as opposed to just solely the name on the application in front of us.
Any more discussion? Okay, the motion is to grant Pure Green LLC a Class C grow license at two different locations, number 1 and number 2. Could you please call the roll?
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Next, number 3, Great Lakes Northern Lights LLC. And this is for both, correct? Pre-qualification and a license?
Correct.
Wishes of the board. No wishes today? Christmas is coming. I got my wish list. John Deere tractor.
You're bad.
Don't think I'll get it either.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to grant application for a state operating license to Great Lakes Northern Lights LLC and pre-qualification.
Is there support?
Second.
Been moved and supported to grant Great Lakes Northern Lights a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provisioning center. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
No.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
No.
Chairman Johnson, you have 2 yeses, 2 nos. Motion fails.
Back to the drawing board. Want to open for discussion on this, or do you want to?
Sure.
Open for discussion. Is there support for that? I'll support it. We are open for discussion on applicant 3, Great Lakes Northern Lights LLC.
Do we have a motion for discussion?
Yep,
We
I
did.
did it and he seconded it.
And did
Vote
we
on it? Vote on it?
We
vote
did.
on that?
Oh, I understand.
I said
All
all
in
in favor,
favor?
but,
Oh.
okay. We voted on it twice though.
Thank you.
And maybe this is one we can table or vote, but my concern obviously was the criminal background of one of the continuous criminal background of one of the applicants.
I have a
Ongoing
very,
problem when you have this many,
I have the same issue that,
a lot of people on the application.
And whatever it is you saw, I missed, so maybe we should table this and bring it back.
Was it one of these down here?
There was one individual.
What was the initials?
H,
ML?
okay. Did you make that a motion, Don, the table?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table Great Lakes Northern Lights LLC until the next board meeting when we have a full board available. I believe that's going to be December 21st still.
Okay, is there support for that?
Support.
Moved and supported to table number 3 applicant, Great Lakes Northern Lights. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Okay, number 4 applicant is Aim High Meds LLC for a state operating license. It's already been granted pre-qualification for a provisioning center.
I move to grant an operating license. Aim High,
Second.
Mets.
Been moved and supported to grant a license to Aim High Meds LLC for a provisioning center. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, number 5, the applicant is Green Peak Industries LLC for a state operating license. They were pre-qualified back in July for a Class C. Is that 10 of them? Is that what that means?
That's correct.
Oh. Okay, wishes?
Move to grant state operating license for Green Peak Industries.
Is there support?
Second.
Moved and supported to grant Green Peak Industries LLC a operating license for Class C, 10 of them. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is number 6, Exclusive Brands LLC for a state operating license. They were granted pre-qual on May 31st of this year. Questions or wishes of the board? Wishes?
I just had a note of a criminal history of one of the applicants, but I wondered when we pre-qualified them, did they like add this applicant and this came after, or it was the same and we missed it when we pre-qualified them? Or you're not sure?
So that we would present, if you look in the documents we provide all the same information we
It
do the
is,
first
so
time.
that would be,
Any
okay.
change in ownership would come back in front of you for a consideration
Okay,
in terms of their
Okay.
continued
okay.
qualification status.
When you say ownership directly, does that mean like even if you remove somebody?
We wouldn't bring that back to the board for
Right.
approval if they remove somebody necessarily, but we'd make a note of it when we
I
haven't
think
had that
that's,
happen
I
yet.
think that's your question, right?
Yeah, like if
Mhm.
they add or change somebody, do we get notated that? Because,
Any change in ownership has to be approved by the board.
okay.
Well? You want to open for discussion?
Move to, grant license to exclusive brands.
Motion is to grant exclusive brands a license for a processor position or status. Is there support?
Second.
It is now supported. Is there discussion? Motion is to grant Exclusive Brands LLC a license for a processor. Hearing no discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no, motion passes.
This one's for both.
Pardon me?
This next one's for both.
Two of them here. Okay, next is 7 and 8, correct?
No, different.
Those are different there.
Yeah, just number 7's for pre-qualification also.
Okay,
Comprehension and state.
The number 7 applicant is No Limit Investment Group LLC for pre-qualification and a state operating license. Wishes of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we discuss this application before we make an up or down motion on it.
Is there support for that?
Sure. Second.
Been moved and supported to open discussion on applicant number 7, No Limit Investment Group. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carries. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, regarding applicant BK, there were a couple of arrests, or there was an arrest that took 2 submissions of the 7 essay to get revealed, and only after Laura brought it to their attention. It was a serious charge, just over 10 years ago, but it was a pretty serious charge. And that's regarding applicant BK, who also operated a dispensary operation in violation of the 2008 MMLB for several years prior to, and carried it as such on his tax returns. Regarding applicant AJ, again, there were a couple of convictions that were left off of the application, had to be asked about it and then resubmitted and disclosed. There's also a bankruptcy for AJ from 2013. And regarding applicant RD, there was a tax lien from 2017 that was disclosed, but it still goes to the regulatory history of applicant RD. And I note in the BMR, BMR are we using now?
Yes, sir.
BMR. The BMR enforcement report, where they did an inspection on 10/18 of this provisioning center. They had products that were in violation of the rules. And again, these rules have been out for over a year. Everybody should know full well, particularly if you're in the business, at whatever level, what these rules are. And there were impermissible products as recently as October 18th. The reason was because maybe it was a hot seller and it made money. It really had nothing to do with providing patient access. It had to do with making money. That's a problem that they can't follow these rules as recently as 6 weeks ago.
Any other discussion? Okay, the discussion is ended. Yeah. Motion on the floor yet? Already?
I'm going through the form now, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would move to deny No Limit Investment Group LLC under section 4022C, applicant knowingly submitted a license application containing false information. For the section for the bankruptcy.
4023F.
4023F, the applicant,
It's the next page.
oh. You want to sit here?
Nope.
4023F.
Nope.
4023E, the applicant filed or had filed against it a bankruptcy proceeding within the past 7 years.
Anything else? Is that a motion, Don?
Yes.
For support?
Second.
Been moved and supported to deny applicant number 7, No Limit Investment Group LLC of an operating license and a pre-qualification status. Any more discussion? Please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, I believe 8, 9, 10, and 11. Could all-
Mr. Chair.
Hold on, 8 has a different supplemental person.
Oh, it does.
Everything else is the same, but number 8 has a
9,
Thomas.
10, 11 are the same.
That's
So
what-
Let's do 8, applicant HG Lansing LLC for a pre-qualification and a state operating license. Wishes.
Move to grant pre-qualification and state operating license for HG Lanson.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant HG Lansing LLC a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provisioning center. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, the next 3 now are all by the same individual
And just for pre-qualification.
and just for pre-qual. You are correct. So before us is applicant Capital City Provisioning Center LLC, the Oil Standard LLC, and the FGF LLC. One's a grow, one's a processor, and the other is a retail provisioning center. Can do them all in one if we have the same motion.
Move to grant pre-qualification status to Capital City Provisioning Center, the Oil Standard, and FGF LLC.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved, supported to grant the 9, 10, and 11 applications for pre-qualification. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Catch up. Okay, the next is number 12. The applicant is DJR Michigan Properties for a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a Class C grow. Any wishes of the board?
Move to grant both pre-qualification and state operating license to DJR Michigan Properties.
Their support?
Support.
Moved and supported to grant DJR Michigan Properties LLC, a pre-qualification status and a state operating license. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard.
Yes.
Nicole Cover.
Yes.
Donald Bailey.
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Next is 13. The applicant is Great Lakes Cultivation LLC for a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a Class C grow.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to discuss this application before we make a motion on an up or down vote.
Second.
Moved and supported to discuss applicant 13 Great Lakes Cultivation. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carried. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, an original applicant, the original applicant on this, who later dropped out and sold his interest to his wife, was arrested by one of the drug teams down in the Ann Arbor, Livingston County area, Lawnet. And it was a marijuana grow operation, and that was from 2003, 2004. Obviously, at some point in the application process, realized that was going to be a hindrance. He sold his interest to his wife and to his to another applicant that we see before us now, HT. I fully believe that MA is the true owner of this, as opposed to the wife, CA. I think that's going to be a problem going forward. And talking about the personal and business probity regarding the applicant HT, there was a charitable gaming license that was ordered shut down, and it was kind of ironic that it's a charitable gaming license and it was shut down because he was charging the charities too much money. And that was shut down. I think that's, for me, that's a problem in this application.
Any more
Yeah.
discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
There are some moral issues with the background of some of the characters. Of course, I'm not going to assume that somebody else is going to run it. That part I'm in disagreement with, but there are a lot of issues with the moral character of a number of the individuals in there.
That are still on the application.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I believe relevant to Mr. Bailey's comments, I think there was a transfer of ownership from MA to the other two owners, MG and HT, who then sold an interest back to his wife, CA. So I think there was an extra step in between, just for the clarity of the history of the transition in ownership.
That clears it right up.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. Anyone have a motion they wish to present?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to deny Great Lakes Cultivation LLC a license under 4023A, the integrity, moral character, and reputation of the applicant, and 4023 where's it? I'm sorry, 4022 C, the applicant knowingly submitted a license application containing false information.
And as part of that motion, we'll want specific reasons that you're relying on for the denial to make sure that everybody's in agreement on what you're voting on as the reason for the denial, aside from the statutory provision.
Vivian, you mentioned,
I think the criminal background of the applicants is sufficient enough to us to have an issue with.
Is there support for,
Second.
there is support to deny applicant Great Lakes Cultivation LLC. Any more discussion?
We have two statutory provisions that are cited. One is integrity, moral character, and reputation. The second is knowingly submitting a false application. Are those the two provisions that you're still relying on for the
Yes.
denial based solely on the criminal background?
Yes. Okay, go ahead and call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is 14, Pure Relief N Union LLC. They need a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provisioning center. Any wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'm motion to grant pre-qualification status and a state operating license to Pure Relief and Union LLC.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant Pure Relief and Union LLC a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provision center. Any more discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Number 15 is HCM Provisioning, Inc. for pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provisioning center. Wishes?
I move to grant pre-qualification and state operating license to HCM provision.
Is there support? I'll support it. Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman, in regard, reviewing this application, this is a temporary operator since February at least. And actually, it goes back several years past that. But they've been operating under the MFLA Rule 19 and now Rule 3 since February. But sales taxes weren't paid until October 26th of this year. And it seems like there's an issue with complying with the regulatory aspect of something as basic as collecting and paying the taxes for the sales tax, not the excise tax, but the 6% sales tax. It wasn't paid until October. That's a problem when I'm thinking about personal and business probity going forward. One of the applicants that was dropped from the final application that's before us, there was an explanation for that. Yet he's still listed as a facility representative when the BMR did an inspection on October 16th. So I question whether or not this person is in fact removed from the application. And I think that goes to business and personal probity for me regarding the applicant.
Okay, I don't like the fact that the sales tax was paid late either, but they will have to come back to this board a year from now. Is that correct, Mr. Director?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
And at the time of the application, they were paid up.
And can I just ask, when you do have somebody that comes off the application and you do an inspection and they're there, is that prohibitive in any way? Like,
No, the people on the application
Right.
are only those who are, those who meet the definition of
Financially.
applicant, but they still have employees.
correct.
uh,
And they're okay to be on that. They just aren't subjected to the, okay,
Correct.
just making sure. for purpose of clarification.
Okay, let's, no more discussion, and let's call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Prove it.
Right.
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, one thing that I sure hope taxes get paid on time going forward, is all I can say. Number 16 is Adams Family Farms LLC. And this is for a state operating license for a Class A grow. Wishes of the board.
This applicant was pre-qualified in July of this year.
Okay. Any comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss this application before we have a motion for an up or down vote.
Support.
Moved and supported to discuss applicant Adams Family Farms LLC. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same. Motion carries. We're open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, going back to, this is on July 12th is when I show it that we had it for pre-approval.
Mhm.
There were some issues that I had with the CPA attestation. This is the picture of cash money that satisfied the obligation to the CPA. And I had asked Ms. Jordan in the meeting if we were going to clean up some of that information going forward to make sure that a photograph of $100,000 was in fact $100,000. The CPA had no way to verify that. Nobody does. We don't. It was simply a photograph. We don't know. Was there a $100 bill on top filled with $1 bills? Nobody knows. And that still has not been addressed. And it's the same thing for some of the other evaluations that the applicant put on some of the personal items that went towards his capitalization. As well, he claimed capitalization on 72 caregiver plants that under the MMLB, they don't really belong to him. He's the caregiver for patients. Those plants actually belong to the patients. He's growing them. He's taking care of them for sure. But I don't believe under the 2008 MMLB that he owns those plants and he can't claim that as capitalization.
Okay. Anyone else? No more discussion? We are done discussing. We are open for a motion for applicant Adams Family Farms LLC. Operating license for Class A grow.
And there are some character issues there too, so.
Mhm.
And bear in mind, the applicant was pre-qualified previously in July.
I need my,
What is the motion?
there's not.
But there isn't one right now.
I move to grant state operating license for Adams Family Farms.
Okay, support? Support? I'll support it. Open for discussion. More discussion, okay. The motion is to grant Adams Family Farms LLC a state operating license for Class A grow. Hearing no more discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Next, 17 is Dennis Investments LLC for a pre-qual and state operating license for a provisioning center.
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss Dennis Investments LLC before we take an up or down vote on the application.
Support.
Moved and supported to discuss applicant number 17, Dennis Investments LLC. All in favor, say aye. Both same. Open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I note in reviewing this application, the original owner, 100% owner of this application was subject to, after the submission of the application, a police action by the Oakland County drug team. And it was after that, by about 3 months, he removed himself from the application and passed the current application on to other members that were part of the operation that weren't necessarily part of the application prior, but they were still part of the application at this dispensary that was operating under the 2008 law and collecting a significant amount of money over the past several years, a lot of money that is in violation of the 2008 MMLB. There was a news article last fall that I recall reading in one of the Detroit newspapers that talked about this entity had 10,000 patients. That's an incredible amount in a violation of epic proportions of the 2008 law of MMLB. Each person gets his 5 patients, not 10,000.
There was also non-disclosure
Right.
in there as well.
Actually, more than one. Okay, any more discussion?
Just for clarity, everything that Mr. Bailey cited is true, but I would note that that person's not an applicant in front of you now.
What's it?
I
The
don't-
non-disclosure was on the current
Correct.
applicant.
There were some
Yeah.
non-disclosures for the 30% owner,
Correct.
All right.
being charges.
Okay, any more discussion? Hearing none, we are no longer discussing. Applicant 17, Dennis Investments LLC. Players of the board,
Can I ask one more question?
sure.
So if the applicant, I know there was a person removed, but what if he still listed the owner of the name of the business, the LLC? Do we check that?
Yeah, so this was, we have the paperwork in the packet that supports the sale of the
Okay, I might
business
have
as
missed
a whole.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the 100% owner sold it to these two who are now 70/30. The
Okay.
explanation on the maintenance of the name is that for the city of Detroit approval, they had to maintain the name of the business,
Gotcha.
but they intend to change that
Okay.
in the future.
I missed that part, sorry.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, the undisclosed arrest, maybe for Vivian, that was applicant TZ.
is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion under 402(2)C. The applicant knowingly submitted a license application containing false information.
And is that in reference to the undisclosed arrest?
The undisclosed arrest.
Is your motion to deny?
I'm sorry, did I not say that?
No.
You said motion under.
To deny.
Is there support for that?
Can we add 4023A as well?
And again, you'll want to be specific as to what both the statutory clause at issue and the reason for that.
Okay, is there a support for the motion? There is, okay. Okay, more you wanted to add?
Support?
No, we've got to support it. Did they get everything that you wanted down? Okay. All right.
So I'm sorry, before you move forward, we have the application, the undisclosed arrest was used as a reason for 2C. Is there a different reason for 4023A, or can you be more specific as to which clause? And are you referring to integrity, moral character, and reputation there specifically? Thank you.
Okay, the motion is to deny. Is there any more discussion? Motion is to deny Dennis Investments LLC a pre-qualification and a state operating license for provisioning center. No, hearing no more discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Okay, next is number 18, House of Dank LLC for a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provision center.
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss this application before we go with an up or a down vote.
Support for that? Moved and supported. All in favor of open up discussion on applicant number 18, House of Dank, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I note in the BMR enforcement report, based on an anonymous tip, they did an inspection and found that the entity was selling an enormous amount, those are the words out of the report, an enormous amount of out-of-state product. Because the BMR enforcement folks, don't have police authority, they're regulatory agents. They didn't confiscate that. They don't have the authority to do that. But they did go there and they found that. And again, these are rules that have been out since last December, just a year now. And anybody who's in the business needs to know what they are. Certainly everybody knows that buying and selling commercially out-of-state products is not something that's allowed, never has been allowed, it's never been contemplated. Regarding applicant, it's a sole applicant, MJ, there was an undisclosed arrest. When the state police called to try to interview them, the applicant on that, he never got back, so the state police was never able to complete a follow-up on that. In describing the incident later, certainly human nature to try to minimize your involvement in these kind of things. But this was a false police report that was pretty serious in nature. It wasn't simply a false police report, and it was not disclosed. I think goes to the integrity, moral character of the business and personal probity of the applicant, as well as the rules violations that were discovered.
Any other discussion?
Closed discussion?
Closed discussion is granted.
Okay, I move to deny House of Thanks and citing 4023A, 4023G, 4022C.
Is there support for that?
Second.
Moved and supported to deny House of Dank a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provision center. Is there any more discussion?
And just for clarity, Is that based on the reasons discussed previously, all of those reasons?
That plus other things in.
And if there are additional reasons, you would need to cite those if you want to rely
They're
on
all
those.
under those three.
Sections she named. Okay,
If there are additional factual reasons, you'll want to get those into your motion so that it's clear moving forward what the basis is.
I think we're good. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
Next is Pure Leaf Transportation. And they're and that's LLC for a pre-qualification and a state operating license. Wishes of the board.
Move to grant pre-qualification and state operating license for Pearl Leaf Transportation.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant Pure Leaf Transportation LLC a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a secure transporter. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
thank you. Next, number 20 and number 21. Red Bud Roots. Love these names. Any wishes of the board?
Is this for both
Yes.
Yes,
pre-qualification and?
Yes.
and a license.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Red Bud Roots Lab 3 LLC, Red Bud Roots Lab 4 LLC has pre-qualification and I move to grant pre-qualification and license for a state operating license.
Second.
Moved and supported to grant Red Bud Roots, both applicant number 20 and 21, one being a Class C grow license, 2 of them, and then the other one a processor license. Hearing no more discussion, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses. Motion passes.
The next one is number 22, the Curing Corner LLC for pre-qualification and a state operating license.
Okay, I move to grant the Curran Corner pre-qualification and state operating license.
Is there support? There is a support. Moved and supported to grant the Curing Corner LLC a pre-qualification and a state operating license for a provisioning center. Is there discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
No.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 3 yeses, 1 no. Motion passes.
Okay, and next one is, actually our last one.
No, one more. Well,
Right.
These are the same, so
Yeah, 24.
23 and 24 are the same.
Next one is 23 and 24, which is Pioneer. Yes, Nicole, how do you say that? You're in that world. Is that
Medicinal.
medicinal? Cultivators LLC, a state operating license for a provision center, and the other one was a license for a Class C grow. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to discuss this application before we take a vote on the application status.
Is there support?
Support.
It's moved and supported to open up discussion on 23 and 24. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We are open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, this application was in front of us just in October. There were 2 applicants that have since been removed. from this application that caused the issues that resulted in a denial from October 18th. One of their owners from the 18th remains as the sole owner that's in front of us today. Many of the issues that we had then appear to continue. There was a BMR inspection done just a week and a half ago where they had California products for sale on the shelves. And in a July 18th email, when they asked them some very base questions on product about sourcing marijuana from outside of Michigan, it was an emphatic absolutely not. But as of under the new applicant, we see on November 27th, they had a significant amount of California product for sale. That's a problem. The personal and business probity, following the regulation that we have, there are a lot more regulations. They're going to be easier to violate than that one. That's a problem for me on this application.
Any other discussion? Okay, we will close discussion. We're back to number 2324. Pioneered Medicinal Cultivators. And
Here only that in the inspection report, we did identify what was deemed as hemp water from California. They were unable to prove to us it wasn't derived from Michigan's definition of marijuana, and therefore it's from California. So we told them to take this product off their shelves, and they did, and then we passed their inspection.
And you didn't have any authority because they're not a licensed facility to do anything more really at that point.
No, I mean, we told them exactly what they needed to do, and they took it off their shelves. But yes, we can't physically grab it and put it anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we're regulators.
Right. Could you otherwise, even if they were a licensed facility, could you take custody of it?
No, if there's a law enforcement issue or anything that's criminal in nature, if we come across that issue or anything needs to be seized, we would notify the law enforcement.
Thank you.
anything else?
Question, so going forward, if there's an inspection done, say 6-8 months from now, and that you find the same, so what happens at that point? Can you just explain to everyone what?
If they're doing something unlawful, that would be a criminal issue. So if we went into a licensed facility and they were selling out-of-state products, we could take regulatory action, but we can't seize the product. We would work with our partners through MSP, MTIS to do any criminal enforcement, so they would have the authority to seize any unlawful products and take action criminally.
And at what point could we return the license if that?
Earn the license?
Could we demand the return of the license?
We could pursue disciplinary action. So through an administrative proceeding, the board could opt to suspend or revoke the license after the conclusion of a hearing.
So would
Any
you-
wishes here from the board?
So would you consider that a repeat offense if in the beginning you made it clear in July that they couldn't do it and then you do an inspection? Because my concern is from experience, I know the discipline process and how long that can take. And so if you already have an issue with concern and before that's even issued, then I think we would have grounds to deny, because you don't want to get into another 12 to 18 months before you can take action when they've already proven twice, in my opinion, that there's concern.
So we would consider any interaction with a facility in determining what appropriate action was regarding any incident, and that would be brought up during the hearing process and would be presented to the board. So you could consider the entire history as either a mitigating or aggravating factor when determining what the appropriate action was. Brian was saying
Vetting of their
we have a
product.
paper trail. So we have the documented inspections. Even though the inspection passed, it is noted that there were concerns and they rectified those concerns in order to pass.
So we don't have to take that pass as a reason to approve.
No, not necessarily. I mean, there are a number of factors when it comes to determining eligibility that you
Right.
can consider here. Our tact with applicants to this point has been to note issues that arise.
Sure.
Certainly as this industry evolves and we transition into the regulated market, I don't think anyone that was operating a facility was doing it fully compliant. So we note to them what they need to do in order to become compliant
Sure.
and work with them in order to pass the inspection.
Okay.
Obviously, unless there are some incredibly egregious violations, in which case then we'd work with our partners at MSP to determine an appropriate approach.
I agree with that approach, and my concern is that, these emergency rules have been out for quite some time, over a year now at this point. And just a week and a half ago, this was a violation that was identified. I don't think anyone applying for a license can claim ignorance of what the rules are and what the rules have been for over a year now at this point. And I understand the reason it was done is because it was a product that probably made money. It was completely a commercial decision they made. It's just that it's a violation of the laws that we have and the regulations that Laura has put in place.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion under 4023A to deny the application of Pioneer Medicinal Cultivators LLC. Is this 2 licenses?
Correct.
The grower and one's a provision.
This is between 23 and 24, this is an application for pre-qualification, a grower Class C license, and a provisioning center.
Okay. But for us today is just the grow and the provisioning
And pre-qualification.
and pre-qualification
Correct.
for the 2.
Yeah.
I move to deny pre-qualification and a license for Pioneer Medicinal Cultivators LLC, grow a Class C license, and Pioneer Medicinal Cultivators LLC provisioning center license, pre-qualification and license under 4023A, the personal and business probity of the applicant. I think they've demonstrated quite clearly that the rules that Laura has put in place are not something that they're going to concern themselves with.
There's support?
Support.
There is
Support.
support.
Second.
Moved and supported to deny applicant Pioneer Medicinal Cultivators LLC, both a state operating license for a provisioning center and for a pre-qual, a state operating license for a Class C grow. Further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Just for clarity, the specific reasons are those that were cited during discussion previously.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you have 4 yeses, motion passes.
Thank you. Now, back to the agenda. Okay, department reports. Mr. Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That is the longest I've stood at a podium silently, and I will not be doing that again.
We'll make sure of that.
I think you are on the 21st.
I think I am too. To hire some new people. So statistical update regarding the status of the program as of the actions taken at the meeting today. Pre-qualifications, we've had 866 applications paid and submitted. 158 of those have been approved. 91 of those have been denied. And we have 32 applications that are inactive, which is either withdrawn or simply not being acted upon at the time. Grower class,
That 32 ones that came before the board,
no,
that's overall.
correct. Grower A, we've had 35 submitted, 2 have been approved, 2 have been denied. Grower Class B, 5 have been submitted, none presented to the board yet. Grower Class C, 202 submitted, 26 approved, 4 denied. Processors, 56 submitted, 10 approved, 0 denied. Provisioning centers, 206 submitted, 45 approved, 31 denied. Secure transporters, 13 submitted, 4 approved, 0 denied. Safety compliance facilities, 7 submitted, 4 approved, 0 denied. And overall, for all the step 2 license applications, we have 11 that are inactive in our system. And we still have 108 municipalities that have opted in to adopt ordinances to authorize facilities under the act. Between the last meeting and now, we did issue several bulletins and have other public engagement. On November 16th, and then again on December 3rd, we issued a corrected version of a bulletin regarding daily purchasing limits and item categories and metric. Those were to clarify for the sake of provisioning centers particularly, but as well processors and growers that are packaging marijuana products for downstream provisioning. Listed the categories of the types of products and metric, and ensuring that it was understood what types of categories applied to which types of products, and therefore what the application was regarding THC limits and how they applied to the daily purchasing limits for patients. On November 21st, we passed along a DEQ guidance document regarding protecting water resources when growing and processing marijuana. So that was something that was published by the Department of Environmental Quality that they asked us to put on our website as well. On November 29th, we issued a bulletin that was updated on the 30th regarding maximum THC concentrations for marijuana infused products. That kind of goes along with what I said before about the bulletin on the 16th. Those now that the new rules were promulgated, the maximum THC limits will be published in a separate way by the department. It's not actually listed in the rules. That provides a little more flexibility. The only major change there was the removal of a THC limit for topicals based on feedback we got during the rulemaking process. On November 29th, we also provided an updated consent form for the sale or transfer of untested marijuana products, just to include language that was consistent with the new rules, as well as ensuring that we had everything covered based on the proposed board resolution. On December 3rd, we issued a LARA tips. The LARA tips bulletins are slightly less formal, or including particular guidance for facility operators. This one was regarding criminal background checks and metric requirements for facility employees. So I think that's an important one for everyone to read. And then on December 6th, obviously the initiated law regarding adult use marijuana became effective. We changed the name of the Bureau. We are now the Bureau of Marijuana Regulation. We're spelling that with a J, except in context where we're citing statute, using official statutory terms such as the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. We'll still use H's there. And we conducted another LARA Live, myself and our media guy, David Harms, so we could answer some questions both about the medical program, the transition to the adult use program, and some specific questions about that initiated law. I think was very successful. We got a lot of pointed and very good questions that will still be posted on the LARA Facebook page, so people can go back and view that at a later date if they choose. And being that this is lame duck season, just want to make you aware of a few legislative things. As I said, the initiated law passed. That is now 2018 initiated law 1 regarding adult use marijuana. House Bill 6421 passed the House on 12/6. That is an amendment to the Michigan Vehicle Code that would allow the Department of State to provide photographs to our department for use on medical marijuana registry cards. We are also supportive of a companion bill that has yet to be introduced to do the same for the Personal Identification Card Act. House Bill 6422 passed the House on 12/6. That's an amendment to the Marijuana Tracking Act that provides the authority for the department to share certain information out of the statewide monitoring system with financial institutions that are designated by licensees. That's intended to facilitate banking relationships as financial institutions have given us the feedback that they need access to certain information in order to do their due diligence and oversight of marijuana operators. So we're trying to help facilitate that. House Bill 6500, as well as Senate Bill 1262, those are making a number of amendments to the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, some cleanup, some more substantive, such as clarifying the definition of applicant to set thresholds for those individuals with investment in applicant facilities, to not require us to do the background investigation process of all of those people with any ownership interest. House Bill 6500 is on the House floor. Senate Bill 1262 was just introduced on 12/6. And I'll be happy to take any questions or comments from the floor.
Any questions? Thanks, Mr. Director. We
Thank you, sir.
appreciate that. Next, public comment. We have no cards. I assume everybody's thinking of Christmas. Great. Got one? Oh, okay. From the Detroit Tigers, my favorite baseball team yet. Josh Smith, right? Joseph? You are right. You have the floor.
I wanted to address, I listened to Mr. Bisbal yesterday, and this is mostly for the regulatory age, because I know you guys don't deal with this. The intention to not allow the newly initiated participants to come through this program that you guys have worked so hard on regulating this commercial market. I understand the need that there's a separate, there's a separate program for this new class of people, but the fact is that they're going to make up the majority of consumers. You guys have put together a commercial structure. We're participating in a very exhaustive process to be a part of the commercial structure. And now 80% of the market is outside of the medical purview. And from what I understood, they will not be able to acquire marijuana through this legal, commercial, and regulated channel that you've created, which means that they must purchase it illegally. So we're setting up the illegal market far greater, imbued with far greater economic power than the commercial market. I just don't understand that. It seems that we could utilize the structure that you've created and fold in this new class into the medical commercial structure. I know there are probably some concerns about supply, but we've got a supply system with existing caregivers. Regulate them as well, even if it's through the existing commercial structure. But to force them out, even if it's for a period of a year or 2 years, will create there are some economic forces that will be unleashed. I think it's going to be very difficult to put that genie back in the bottle when you have 80% of the market purchasing outside of our channels.
Thank you. I believe that's it. Okay, I'm gonna move that the board meet in a closed session under section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consider a material subject to the attorney-client privilege that is exempt from public disclosure under section 13(1)G of the Freedom of Information Act. I so move. Is there support?
Support.
It's moved and supported to go into a closed session for the purpose of what I just mentioned. We need a 2/3 roll call vote on this, so I'm hearing no discussion.
I mean, I can leave.
Yeah, let's see how you're gonna vote. Go ahead and call the roll.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Now, for the public, we will come back to adjourn, but we will not be doing any other activity other than to adjourn. You're welcome to stay, you're welcome to go, it's up to you.
We can go out through these back doors right here and go up and then.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Hey, can I have the time? 12:18.
Coming in hot.
Okay, we need a motion to come back to regular session.
Motion to come back to regular session.
Second.
All in favor of coming back to regular session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Session. We have, I believe, one motion to do.
Approve the minutes from
approve some
July
minutes.
12th as a closed session. I motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Is there one of you
Second.
supporting?
Second.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, the motion is to approve the minutes of July 12th, is that correct?
Yes.
Of 2018. There's no discussion on that. Please call the roll, Kelly.
Vivian Picard,
Yes.
Nicole Cover,
Yes.
Donald Bailey,
Yes.
Chairman Rick Johnson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
and we're good to go.
We need a
Motion to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We are adjourned.